Hello and welcome to Finding Your Holy Grail, a show produced through Passionate World Talk Radio, whose goal is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. I am your host, Dr. Mandy Simon. I am joined today by Dr. G. Lawana Gladney. Welcome, Dr. G. So happy to have you here. It's wonderful to see you again.
Oh, and thank you. I am so excited to be here, even though we're in different time zones, and that's great with technology. I love it. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for having me on your
oh, it's my pleasure. And just a reminder that we're here to talk today about how important it is for us to work on in the post pandemic world, how to build resilience and to live fearless. And one of the things that I talk about each week when I have a new guest is I really focus on this aspect of there are different ways to build resilience, which is part of the reason that you're here to share your expertise with us, but to also recognize that to live fearless does not mean that we approach each day without fear of our own. It simply means at the end of the day, by facing everything that feels so challenging for us, that we come out on top and we learn something from it and we become more resilient through doing so.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. Why don't you start by sharing with our audience, our viewers, and our listeners a little bit about yourself for those of whom are not actually associated or familiar with your work?
Yes, well, I am Dr. Lawana Gladney, better known as Dr. G. I have been doing this work for about 3 decades now. And so I'm very passionate about helping people to stay sane in a crazy world. That has been my tagline for years, and now it just really seems like it's really appropriate.
Yeah.
and so what I do is I help people understand how to manage their emotions, their stress, in order to create that amazing life that I believe that we all can live, even though our circumstances may not be amazing. And so I do that through speaking, I do training, I've written a lot of online courses, I've written 6 books. I work with individual clients, I work with companies, organizations, people.
Yeah.
It's all about the psychology is all about people and the minds of people. So my work will never be done. It'll never be over. And believe me, it's different every day because people bring about differences every day. And
Yeah.
something that can fascinate you and something you can analyze. So that's what I do. And I love what I do.
Yeah. And it's so lovely to see you again. I mean, we first met during the lockdown that happened in March 2020.
Yes.
And it's actually what originally brought us together. I'm so thrilled to have you here today. We've been talking about, before we came on air, we are actually in the aftermath of the American election, waiting for the votes to be counted, the electoral colleges to be called, for there to be a direction forward, which has been a really long process, not just for Americans, but the whole world. And so, one of the things that you're here to talk about today, which I'm really thrilled and thankful for, is how we manage our emotions in these times when we really try to understand who are we? How are we going to remain resilient with such great uncertainty in the world? One of the things that I'm struck by week after week is just it's not just what's happening in our world politically or in terms of turning around each day and having one aspect of our civil rights more threatened than the day before, but it's this aspect of what's happening with Mother Nature around the globe and just this lashing out of these incredible natural disasters and everything that we as a people on this planet are being challenged to deal with in
Mm.
times that we never thought we would wake to ever in this lifetime or any lives beyond. So please give our audience a little bit of an idea about which direction you would like to take them in today.
Wow. Well, Mandy, you just said a mouthful.
Yeah.
There are so many dynamics. So I want to begin by first saying that there's so much that happens in the world that we cannot control.
Yeah.
And if you focus on all of that, it's really overwhelming. And what it does, just like the storms and all of the things that brew with Mother Nature, and we've been seeing just hurricane after hurricane, fires, tornadoes, earthquakes. I mean, it's just,
Mm,
and it just seems like it's a barrage of stuff happening. It just seems like the earth and everything is angry.
yeah.
And so it's shaking up stuff. And when you look at all of that, can't control it.
Mhm.
You mentioned our election. You know, we do what we can in a democratic society when we cast our vote, and then it's out of our hands.
Mm,
We can't do anything else. And again, that's something else that's out of control.
mhm.
How your wherever, whatever country you're listening or hearing this from, how the economy happens,
Mm,
it's really out of our
yeah.
control. This pandemic that's going on, out of our control. So I want people to be able to separate what you can control from what you can't control.
Yeah.
Because the things that we can't control typically create all of these emotions and these thoughts and these feelings. And while emotions are so normal and that's a part of our human psyche,
Mhm.
when we talk about emotions, they're really research has really narrowed it down to only two emotions, and that's love and fear. Everything else comes from love or fear. So all the positive emotions that you feel is coming from that love. All of the negative emotions that you feel are coming from fear. Now, that is something we can't control, is our emotions. So I have people to focus, refocus on the things that you can control, these emotions that we have. Now, you're going to have fear. Fear within itself is not all bad. Fear was given to us as humans to help keep us alive, to keep us safe. And
Yeah.
it's an internalized, and so, you just get that feeling. That's to help protect us. When we have the fear that is outside of us, that is just created, that particular emotion that creates all this negative energy that
Mhm.
starts going on in our body. And they say that the feeling of fear itself can trigger a 30,000 different hormone things that's going on in your body.
Yeah.
Your body's just going, just like the hurricane and the storms, your body's just going crazy when there's fear inside. We can't see all of this, but your body feels it
Yeah.
and your mind feels it. And so it's really, really important to understand what fear, the negative thoughts and emotions are doing to you so that you can say, okay, we need to disrupt this. We need
Yeah.
to disrupt this because if you don't, then what happens, it just your body's kind of clothed on the inside with this negative energy that is produced by negative feelings, which really come from negative thoughts.
Yeah.
So you think about something and it's negative, a feeling is attached to that thought. And
Mhm.
so you have to know you don't have a feeling without having a thought, positive and negative. So understanding what that is, Dr. Mandy, is so important for people to get that every thought has a feeling attached to it. And is that feeling positive or negative? Is it love or fear?
Yeah.
And when you want to change it over, which is what I want to get to the message to people,
Mhm.
that's the thing that we can control. That's one of the only things we can control in our lives.
And I think it's really very interesting because one of the things that we were discussing is how, when I really appreciate, by the way, how you're explaining we have this emotion of love, we have this emotion of fear. We recognize these as positive and negative things, but then also focusing us on the really important thing that fear has a positive aspect because it's what's led to our survival as human beings. This is how the fight or flight phenomenon has allowed us to sense danger in our environment, historically speaking, as a human species, and to presumably make a critical decision that is too fast for our brains to sequence, but our bodies can actually attach to and allow us to flee for survival and then continue to evolve. And so when you're talking about this, it's really quite important because you're getting us to this point where how do we access the energy that is is attached to the fear of good fear or bad fear, or how do we access the energy that is attached to the emotion of love? And I'm really pleased that you're here to talk about this today. I think that if we can start to understand this as an individual level, it helps us to move those people forward in our environment. And when I say in our environment, one of the things that we've come to realize is that Zoom is now our environment. This
Absolutely.
virtual experience is our environment, right? And I can see when I study your body language in this camera, I can see that you don't have emotions of feeling like you're being threatened in any way, shape, or form. And this is how we are tuned in as individuals. And so this is something that we hear in people's voices when we talk to them on the phone and we say, "Are you okay?" Because there's an energy associated with that. It's what we do when we look at one another and when we talk to one another. So I think, I want to make sure that the audience recognizes that once again, what we are discussing is something that already is the power within inside ourselves. And we're
Mhm.
just bringing a level of awareness to an ability that is already held by each member on this planet.
Right. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
you said that so beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
as humans, I appreciate how we are designed.
Hmm.
And most of us don't think about all that stuff. It's just the geeky people like me who just love to study and analyze brains and human behavior and stuff. But how we are created and designed really to have the ultimate experience in life.
Hmm.
But we let those emotions and feelings and the false fear, the imagined fear is what I call it, because what happens, there's real fear.
Hmm.
There's real fear that you should be afraid of things that are dangerous, that, can kill you, that can harm you. But if you think about it from a childlike standpoint, children come here and they really don't have the fear. They don't
Yeah.
fear anything. They'll run out in the street. They'll do anything, and we have to teach them
Hmm.
that. And then they learn, and instinctively they learn something's too hot. If I get too close, something will happen. The consequences of that. Those are real fear things. The imagined fear is when you make somebody think about something
Yeah.
and you put a thought in their mind and you say, "You see that person over there? They look like the boogeyman." We were all afraid of the boogeyman growing up.
Yeah.
And we had a picture of him in our mind. And then the movies showed us what a boogeyman looked like. So
Hmm.
that now all of a sudden, the kids are just scared because they think of something under their bed. It's the thoughts,
Yeah.
because they've something has been planted in your space, in your head.
Hmm.
As adults, oh my gosh, we just have everything that we're afraid of. But most of the time, our fear is not displayed as that you're afraid. It's displayed that you're angry,
Yeah.
that you're mad. And so people that are really afraid, it's manifested as their anger, they're mad, the hatred, all of that stuff comes out.
Yeah.
But underneath all of that, you're afraid of something. You're
Yeah.
afraid of somebody. You're afraid of people, or people that are different from you, or whatever this is. Or you're afraid you're going to lose your money, or you're afraid you're not going to be able to pay your bill. You're afraid. So that fear, that is implanted, that starts with a thought, and now it's a feeling, and then it becomes this action, and all of this is in your body, all of this energy. It's a wonder that more people are not sick. I know our hospitals are full, and this is prior to the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's because of all this negative energy that then disrupts the balance of the inside of your body, which then causes disease and all of that stuff. That's where that comes from.
Yeah.
So 75 to 90% of all your sickness and disease, it comes from stress. It comes from your emotions and your stress. And you go, the unseen things that we can't really touch, your emotions and stress, now causes something that you can feel and touch inside of your body. Wow, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
So I want to give people hope. I want you to understand that you have more power
Hmm.
for yourself than what you think. You have more power over your physical and mental and spiritual health. You have that power over that.
Yeah.
We just have not been trained, Dr. Mandy, to understand how to do that. And that's what I want to try to impart to the listeners today is just a few little steps on how do we shift from this negative thoughts and feelings and get to another space. The thing I want to say about emotions as well is that they're in your limbic portion of your brain.
Yeah.
And that's where your emotions and all the stuff takes place. And then your neocortex is where your logic and reasoning. Well, when you're emotional, you're not logical. So those two brains aren't working together.
Yeah.
So you're either emotional or you're logical. We do most things based on a feeling. We go to the store, we buy stuff impulsively. Most decisions, 90% of our decisions are made because we feel something. So
This
these
is
the thought,
extremely important. This is extremely important. This is how market research has determined that a
absolutely.
person will be a consumer that will buy a certain way because they will actually influence the emotion. And that emotion will change the energy in their body into an action, right?
Absolutely.
And so if the product makes you feel amazing, and it depends on the type of consumer you are. And there's a lot of science behind this. But the bottom line, the real logistics process that you've presented here, which is so important for our audience at home to understand, is just the fact that we are being manipulated into acting in a certain way around a product based on a feeling that someone is eliciting in us. This is why I think what you're saying today is so incredibly invaluable, is if we can take that moment to interrupt the feeling that has flooded our body before we react, we can actually choose our action. And the
Absolutely.
choice of our action is what creates a resilience in us that comes from within.
Right.
And this is where we overcome our own fear to be fearless in our actions each day. This is the key point, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, so I want to give a strategy here that
Yeah.
help you to disrupt your negative thinking,
Mhm.
which turns into a negative feeling, which
Yeah.
turns into the negative action. And so, whenever something happens, and I've been practicing this for years, I need you to stop. If you've heard something, if you've seen something, somebody's upset you right now in the midst of what we have going on, it's kind of like, okay, I need to manage my emotions. Because
Mhm.
first of all, you need to say, is this in my control or is it not?
Mhm.
If it's not in your control, that doesn't mean that you don't have empathy for people that are caught up in a hurricane. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that.
Yeah.
But some people, they get so vested in there and then their whole day is disrupted because of what they've seen.
Mhm.
And so I want people to know that it's okay to feel bad and sad for somebody, but then how then do you move through that? And then particularly when the emotion has to do with fear, it's like, okay, we need to disrupt that. So can I control it or can I not? It's going to two different categories. It's like most of the stuff, no, you can't control. So we don't want our energy wasted because you only have a certain amount of energy every day. You don't want your energy wasted on something that you can't control, can't do anything about it. That's the first thing that you have to ask your mind.
Okay.
But understand, I'm walking you through a process because we need to shift your mind.
Yep.
So you need to shift from being emotional. Now you ask yourself a question. You go to your logic and reasoning in your brain and you go, oh no, I can't control that. Okay. Now you switch in your brain. But then I want you to also, I need you to stop and I want you to take 3 deep breaths. So you go and you breathe and you do that 3 times. Now, why are we doing that? I'm going to tell you why we're doing that. Because again, all of the things that happen to us that we do subconsciously, like breathing and blinking and some of these things that we don't even know that's happening, when you place your mind and you say in a mindful space of the moment, and you have to think about doing something that you normally do subconsciously, now you're really triggering your brain. Like it's like, okay, breathe, breathe in, breathe out. Now you're conscious. And of course, this is so related to meditation, yoga, all the other things that help center you. By the
Sure.
time you do that 3 times, you've given your brain a time to shift. It needs this oxygen flow to redirect itself because your body is getting all tangled up. Like I said, it's getting like a storm when all these emotions are involved. By the time you've done that, it's so simple. Your brain now has been in two logical spaces because you answered a question that required logic. You centered your body back, that is like your brain has to figure out, okay, I'm breathing 3 times, I'm going to count. And then you're going to feel better. The emotion that you were feeling, it's going to shift, believe it or not. But people don't even take it, and this doesn't even take 5 seconds. You ask yourself, can I control it or not? No. Breathe 3 times.
Right.
You know, and now you shift it. And now you say, okay, what's the solution to the problem? I tell everybody you have to focus on the solution and not the problem.
Yeah.
It continues to keep your brain in a logical space to disrupt the emotion. And you're like, okay, so the solution, and it could be something with your kids, we could use,
Yeah.
their
But
disruptive.
yeah, and I think one of the things that really comes to mind so powerfully for me, and I think any of our audience at home, many of them may relate to it, is the fact that the very first solution may not be the final decision, right? But it can help us in a stepping stone to say, okay, now I've had 3 more breaths, right?
Absolutely.
And so a lot of times for myself, I find that it's just what I call an iterative process. So I
Mhm.
start somewhere and then I say, how's it going? Maybe not there yet. How's it going again? I'm maybe not there yet. It's really interesting to hear what you're saying in terms of it might be with your kids. It could be with anything,
Any
absolutely anything.
It works. And when you're in that problem solving mode, so yeah, you're right. It may not be the first solution that you come through.
Yeah.
Guess what your brain is doing? It's all over here on this side, and it's all the logic and the reason, and it's trying to
Yeah.
figure things out. It's trying to analyze. So it's no emotion. It's no emotion involved in that. So you have disrupted the negative emotion, and now you feel in your body with positive energy because it's needing your brain, and it's needing to be able to say, well, yeah, how do we problem solve that? So see, you're thinking about something, plus
Yeah.
you shifted the focus of your energy into something completely different now, and it's like, okay, yeah, I can't fix that, so let me just get
And
away.
And once they've done this, is that as far as they need to take it? Are there any other steps that they can take after that or that you advise them to take?
Well, yeah, so when you do have, I want to kind of go back to the emotion because I always want people to be very clear. It's important to acknowledge your emotion, even if it's negative.
Mhm.
It's so important to say, okay, I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
Why do I feel this way? Why am I angry?
Yeah.
When you start doing self reflection and you go, I don't know, why am I angry? They didn't do that to me. It's just something I saw on TV. Or why do I feel this way? Because we do get a chance to be angry, and that's normal too. That's a normal emotion, but checking in with yourself, and it's like, why am I angry? Okay, I'm acknowledge this emotion. I'm going to kind of walk through this. Then, do I really have a right to be angry?
Yeah.
And you might, because it may be something on your job, it may be something with your kids, it may be something with your spouse, it may be something, and you're like, I do have a right to be angry. But then when you shift over and say, but do I really want to be angry? Is that going to serve me? It's not going to serve me really, right? So then again, you shift into the problem and solution. Is it
Mhm.
something I can control? Can I solve this problem? What do I need to do? So now you've taken yourself through some steps, and I call it the hierarchy of emotional wellness and management. And so now you shifted, okay, you know what? it's not that bad. I just go through a lot of steps and then I go, is it really that deep? Is this gonna matter to me tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually by tomorrow, once you slept, whatever made you so upset, it calms down because your body is doing
Yeah.
a lot of different things at night.
It's really true. And so many things come to mind for me while you're speaking. I mean, we could do this with posts that we see on social media before we
Absolutely.
respond to them. We could do them with news briefings. I mean,
Absolutely.
really, at the time of the pandemic, I think one of the most difficult things is that we're being peppered each day, not even peppered, just barraged each
Right.
day with so much fear mongering. I call it the 24-hour news cycle with the 1 hour story,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And it's where, for self preservation and actually the forward momentum in a positive timeline of the human species, we
Mhm.
are actually forced at this point to be able to determine, is this really necessary?
Right.
Is this something that I want to spend my time and thus my energy on? Right. And
Right.
this really is beautiful what you have presented to our audience today, because it's this whole aspect of really, this is already within every single one of us. And your reflection of self, to me, this is truly the key,
Yes.
is that once you get yourself all the way through that, being able to say, how much will this matter when the sun comes up in the morning? How much will this change? A
Yeah.
little bit, what do they say? Hindsight is 2020,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really, really powerful. I'm
Yes.
so grateful for you to share this with us.
Yes, and this is just a little bit of portion, but if you could, I promise you, if you could start to integrate this into your life and start being so aware of where you are, how you feel, what you're thinking,
Mhm.
you can disrupt your own stuff. And you go, I don't need, and just like so for me, I'm looking at the news and I'm like, or social media posts, I'm like, why should I explain anything? I'm not going
Yeah.
to change anybody's mind. What good is that going to do?
Mm.
Everybody has an opinion and everybody gets to a right to feel how they feel. At the
Mm.
end of the day, why do I want to engage? And people call, oh, I'm so upset. I'm like, I don't. Nobody posts things like that on my timeline. First of all, you just can't post on my timeline. But secondly, why would I entertain that? Why?
Yeah.
Because it's just when you realize it's all based on emotion, and we know we really can't change
Yeah.
people's feelings. It's not logic. Then you just go, it's not worth the fight. You
And
know,
I,
you go ahead.
yeah, I think it takes real discipline
It
for
does.
us to, because this isn't the type of thing that we can practice once and have it in and done, right?
No, I practice
This
it.
takes discipline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an everyday thing. It's not that
Yeah.
you ever arrive because you don't know what life is going to throw at you on day to
Mhm.
day. You don't know what disruptions you'll have.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly centering myself. I'm constantly saying to myself, when do you feel something? And through this pandemic, Lord knows, I've been checking with that almost every day. And
Yeah.
how we now have become almost, you can become desensitized to the numbers that you're seeing. And the people are like, oh, well, at first the feeling was like, now it's, everything desensitizes. And it's like,
Yes.
oh, you got to plug back in because I don't want to become too detached.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to get detached from their emotions. You need to understand they're there
Mhm.
but just how to deal with them and how to manage them. And
Yeah.
so it is daily work. I'm telling you, I'm doing
Yeah.
something every day to manage these emotions.
I love it. I'm so grateful to you, as I've said before, for sharing this. I think it's really, really important for our audience at home. This is your call to action this week. This is what
Mhm.
Dr. G has prepared for you. What I truly enjoy about this aspect is, in every choice that we make, every single day, we have the option to choose and choose again. And if it doesn't work the first time through, do not give up. Do
Right.
it again.
Again.
Take another deep breath. and pretty soon the day goes by. And we know that every morning when we wake up, the sun is going to rise. And
And
so,
yeah,
that we don't know what the day will bring, but we do know the sun is going to rise.
but
Right?
say every day, this is the thing I want you to start practicing.
Yeah.
Say this to yourself every day in every way. I am getting better and better. That is,
Every day, in every way,
I am getting
I'm getting
better
better
and better.
and better.
I tell myself that and repeat it to myself when I'm feeling bad. I'm like, every day in every way, I'm getting better and better.
It's
That will,
beautiful. It's beautiful and really powerful. Thank you for
yes,
sharing that with us.
absolutely.
Oh, please tell our listeners and our viewers how they can reach out and get in touch with you.
Well, I can be reached. My website is drgladney.com. That's drgladney.com. And I have all kind of resources and books and all of the stuff, online courses is there. And drop me a note. Or you can please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Dr. Gladney. Everything is Dr. Gladney. And then my
Right.
email address is drgladney@drgladney.com. You see, I just made life simple for everybody. You don't
Fantastic.
think.
Fantastic. I am so pleased that you are here with us today. And for everyone at home, use your workbook to fill in this call to action. You can download it from the blog where you received this show today. And I'd like to thank Passionate World Talk Radio for providing a platform on their internet radio station for my show, Finding Your Holy Grail. For more information, go to www.passionateworldtalkradio.com or www.findingyourholygrail.com. Please write to me. Give us your comments and your questions at findingyourholygrail@gmail.com. Dr. G, thank you for being here today.
Thank
And for
you.
yeah, it's just wonderful. I'm so happy to see you again. It's incredible.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And for everyone at home, thank you for joining us. And until next week, keep safe and stay brave.